Hi, this is Sam Kotera here again with another Gain Grades video. And for this video, we're going to be looking at the Pareto Principle. And specifically, we're going to find the 20% that makes the difference. Now that subtitle might sound a little confusing right now, but I can assure you once we get into this slideshow, it will make a lot more sense for you. So what is the Pareto Principle? Well, the Pareto Principle is sometimes referred to as the 80-20 rule. And it basically says that 20% of efforts yields 80% of the results. And you can apply this to school, business, emotions, etc. For the purposes of this video, we're going to be applying it to higher education. So in the context of school, what this basically means is that 20% of your effort into school encompasses or generates 80% of the final results. So let's say, and this is just an example, if you were a straight A student and you found that critical 20% of your efforts and discarded the rest, all that other 80%, you would still have a B minus, an 80% class average if you just use that critical 20%. Now it's worth noting that the 80-20 rule, this is a rule of thumb. It's not going to be exactly 80% and exactly 20%. But you'll find that in most cases that it really is roughly 20% that makes for roughly 80% of the results. So for the purposes of your studying and time management skills in school, you're going to want to find your 20%. And I'm not saying just use the 20%, but what I am saying is to make sure you are using that 20%. And here's a few questions you might consider to find that 20% in your studying and academic life. Where do you study best? Is it in your dorm room? Is it in the library? Is it in a specific spot in the library even? There's probably somewhere specific where you find you just get things done. Write that down or consider it or think of it. Also, what time of the day do you tend to study best? Some of us study really well at night. Some of us have to get up really early at 7 in the morning to find themselves being truly productive in school. So where is that for you? Do you listen to background music while you're studying? Or do you find you get more done when music is off and you're working in silence? And finally, what is the layout of your study environment? Do you have a cup of coffee right there ready? Do you have a snack so that you don't have to worry about getting up and going to get one and ruining your flow? Do you have a stack of books right next to you in case you need to pull any of those out for reference? Do you usually have your laptop open and ready? What does that layout look like in whatever study environment you're in? What layout works well for you? So I tried to find common elements that made up students' 20% of input that resulted in 80% of their output or final results. And here are sort of three big ideas with some sub-ideas within them. The first main idea I saw most students had in their 20% was no distractions. Okay? So you need to have your phone off or silenced. Don't have Facebook open in another tab while you're on the internet. And focus on one task at a time. Now you'll notice that one task at a time is under no distractions. And I put that there because if you're working on 2 tasks at a time, 2 assignments that you're multitasking between, you're really distracting yourself from both the tasks with the other task. And you're just dropping your efficiency by doing that. So no multitasking in this 20% zone. You're also going to want to follow the ultradian rhythm. Now, when I was asking students about what made up their 20%, they didn't say, oh, ultradian rhythm. But they did say not to invest more than an hour and a half consecutively into one task. And, I'm averaging out here, but about an hour and a half. And coincidentally, this follows the idea of the ultradian rhythm very well. An ultradian rhythm is basically the concept that after an hour and a half of high energy focus into some task, whatever it is, that you're going to begin using your energy very inefficiently on that task. So people that cram for assignments or tests and they go well past their hour and a half of studying, you can do that and it'll work, but it's going to work much more inefficiently after that hour and a half. And for many of us, you have to even train yourself up to being able to focus on a task for just an hour and a half. For many of us, 45 minutes is going to be all we can do, but an hour and a half is really the top line. If you really train your mind to be able to focus on a task, an hour and a half is about as far as you're going to be able to go. So follow the ultradian rhythm. No more than an hour and a half consecutively on one task. And set a time frame. Whatever that time frame is. You might try the hour and a half. You might just say, I'm going to dedicate 45 minutes straight to this one assignment or this one study guide or whatever it is. But don't stop early and don't finish late. If you say 45 minutes, do 45 minutes of studying for whatever the task is. Now, the Pareto Principle applies elsewhere in school, not just the 20% of your input for 80% of the final grade. 80% of your stress also comes from 20% of your workload, roughly. 80% of your effort goes to 20% of your classes, roughly. So we all know that when we take 15 credits worth of classes, maybe 5 3-credit courses, there tends to really be one that takes up the bulk of your time and effort to really get good grades in it. I noticed this when I'd have 4 general education courses that were pretty easy and maybe one upper level course that I found myself devoting a lot of effort into outside of class. Also, 20% of your teachers are going to influence 80% of the lasting knowledge you get from school. So in K through 12, you can probably pick out just a few teachers that really had a profound influence on you, and that would come out to somewhere around 20% of the teachers. And then also 80% of your effort will account for 20% of your success. So then you'll want to take that 80% and really compare it with the other 20% that's accounting for 80% of your success, and see how you can turn some of that 80% of your effort that's not being used efficiently, and see how you can turn that into something more efficient, like that other 20% of your effort that's accounting for 80% of your success. And again, I want to encourage you to check out www.gaingradesnow.com. You can sign up for the Gain Grades newsletter and receive other useful tips for efficiency in college, just like this one. So again, this is Sam Kotera here. Thanks for watching the video, and have a great rest of the day.